which is close to the Warfala tribe, has its base in the southern town of Zintan. And finally, the Qadatfa, which is Gaddafi's tribe, and it controls the air force.
It is quite significant then to know that tribes such as Warfala and other tribes actually in the country, when they stand up and say, we don't support this regime, it doesn't mean that they supported him in the past. It just means we are going to stand against you, and we're going to stand along the people on the street. We're going to stand along the Libyan people instead.
While Gaddafi tried to eliminate the tribal system when he came to power, it remains entrenched. Gaddafi has relied on simmering tribal rivalries to tighten his grip on power. This is especially the case within the military, where all major tribes are represented. Losing these loyalties could ultimately lead to losing his grip on power. Dorsa Jabari, Al-Jazeera.
Let's just recap the latest developments out of Libya. And Muammar Gaddafi has said, "I will die as a martyr." Those are his words. In a speech that lasted 75 minutes, he told the nation that he's not going anywhere. This as foreigners are being evacuated from the country. Turkey has sent 2 rescue ships, and the Netherlands and Italy also amongst the countries getting their nationals out. And a Libyan naval vessel is in waters near Malta, reports indicating it may have deserted the Navy. On the international front, the United Nations Security Council has condemned the use of force against peaceful demonstrators, and the UN Human Rights Chief has called for an inquiry into the attacks on protesters, saying they could amount to crimes against humanity. Stay with us here on Al Jazeera. I'll be back after this short break.
Qatar, through Qatar Petroleum and its partners, has been adopting ambitious plans aimed to expand its exports of natural gas in its liquefied form into remote international markets and to supply piped gas to regional markets. In implementing those plans, Qatar has been benefiting from its strategic geographic location and the relatively low cost of producing gas from its territories. Qatar Petroleum.
On the next Rizkan show, as world leaders condemn Libya's use of force against protesters, what's really at stake for Western nations with close ties to Muammar Gaddafi? Rizkan, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Unpopular with some at home, untested overseas. The first year has not been easy for David Cameron and his coalition government. In conjunction with U2, Al Jazeera asks your questions to the British Prime Minister. World View, an interview with David Cameron at this time on Al Jazeera.
All sides, all views, all ways. Al Jazeera.
14 competing teams, 13 different venues, 3 host nations. Cricket is part of the fabric of life here, and this competition is the pinnacle of the one-day game. We'll be bringing you all the action and reaction from India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. The Cricket World Cup on Al Jazeera.
The main stories here on Al Jazeera.
Of course, that these trials will actually go ahead.
From the world to your phone. Al Jazeera Mobile.
Al Jazeera exclusives.
Given that Singapore is on a heightened state of alert for a possible attack on a ship such as this, it's been surprisingly easy for us to hire a small boat and get this close.
The constant smell is a reminder to these fishermen of the lost work and their lost livelihood.
This terrible winter has proved a stern test. Animals to these people represent livelihood, but also a sense of family, and many are losing both.
In his first major speech since the unrest began, a defiant Muammar Gaddafi calls on his supporters to reclaim the streets.
I will not leave the country, and I will die as a martyr at the end.
This is Al Jazeera's News Hour live from Doha. I'm Darine Abu Gheda from Al Jazeera News Centers here in Doha and Washington with our live and continuing coverage of Libya's uprising.
I'm Shihab Ratanzi in Washington. We'll have the latest reaction from the US government and from the United Nations in New York.
The members of the Security Council expressed grave concern at the situation in Libya.
The UN Security Council issuing a statement condemning the use of force against civilians. But is the international community contemplating any real action?
And a national state of emergency. New Zealand's earthquake kills at least 75 people. 3 a.m. in Libya. It's the morning after. Muammar Gaddafi, that's the leader, and he addressed the nation. His words, not exactly what the people wanted to hear. And we can just recap the latest developments. I will die as a martyr. Those are the words of Gaddafi in his speech that lasted 75 minutes. He told the nation that he is not going anywhere and that he will fight to his last drop of blood. This as foreigners are still being evacuated from the country. Turkey has sent 2 rescue ships, and the Netherlands and Italy also amongst the countries getting their nationals out. The United Nations Security Council has met to discuss the crisis and condemn the violence. The Arab League has also met in Cairo, and the United Nations Human Rights Chief has called for an inquiry into the attacks on protesters, saying they could amount to crimes against humanity. Well, as we mentioned, the Libyan leader did address his people a little earlier, and we can now listen to a little of what Muammar Gaddafi had to say.
Peaceful demonstration is different, and the undermining of the sovereignty is a different matter. The world must understand peaceful demonstration is different. Libyan people don't need to go to demonstrations. They can go to the People's Committee. But armed rebellion, to disconnect Derna or Beida or Benghazi, it's a different matter. We will not allow it.
Ahmed al-Zawi is the Secretary General of Libya's People Committee, and he spoke on Libyan state television earlier, and he blamed the foreign media for exaggerating unrest in the country, singling out AlJazeera and the channel's host country, Qatar.
We used to respect our brothers in Qatar, but the brothers in Qatar have dedicated AlJazeera channel in order to provoke, to create lies, and to by Egyptians who live in Qatar, who have been paid a lot of money in order to conduct this conspiracy. And this is unacceptable from a brother country. Libya has a problem with brothers in Qatar, which is that they have helped us in sorting out problems with the West in exchange for giving them investment opportunities. These opportunities have not been agreed for administrative reasons. They were also upset because President Gaddafi attacked the presence of the American base in the country.
Earlier, Libyan